Hi, I'm Ryan Marples, and this video is going to be an introduction to cloud computing for .NET developers. Many .NET developers today are building web applications. This software as a service model is a great way to deliver apps to many users who need nothing other than a web browser to use the app. But there's still a challenge with this. In this model of software delivery, all the emphasis is put on a single server environment to support the needs of all these users. There's a lot of emphasis and pressure on that environment, and with that pressure comes complexity. First, if we're going to deliver a web application, we need a comprehensive infrastructure to run it on. Obviously, we need the server hardware, but we also need to think about things like power and data center cooling. We then need to implement firewalls and load balancing hardware to coordinate multiple servers to work together. We need to maintain all the Windows operating system software, IIS, ASP.NET, SQL Server, and any other software that's part of the mix. And when you have all these different pieces of software, you have to worry about compatibility and versioning between them all. So the infrastructure in and of itself is not a trivial function. But it's not just about a bunch of equipment. We need proper processes in place to accommodate for things like disaster recovery, security procedures, how we're going to apply needed patches to the system. We need a formal backup strategy in place. We need to think about how to stage the various testing and pre-release versions of the software and much more. That takes a lot of time and a lot of know-how. Then finally, if our promise to our users is that our app will always be available, then we need to spend a lot of time figuring out how to tweak the system for maximum performance, and how we can add capacity to meet scalability and uptime requirements. And depending on the sensitivity of the data we're working with, or who the end customer is, we may need to pursue certification and auditing processes. To deliver all of this takes a lot of time, expertise, and expense. But don't worry, cloud computing is coming to our rescue. Cloud computing starts with cloud providers. These vendors provide the infrastructure, the processes, and ultimately take ownership of the complexities inherent in today's application runtime environment. So who are these vendors? You'll probably recognize the key players: Salesforce.com, Google, and Amazon.com. These are companies that have been running huge-scale web applications for a long time and have built up a lot of expertise, and now they're offering their expertise, their data centers, their mission-critical operations procedures to you. Each vendor has a slightly different makeup of their offering. Today, we're going to be focusing on Salesforce.com. Salesforce.com offers a solution called Force.com. Force.com is a platform as a service. It provides an environment hosted in the cloud that enables developers to build data-centric business applications with a mix of both WYSIWYG editors and raw code. Development, staging, and production environments are made available, so developers need literally nothing other than a web browser and an optional IDE to build a large-scale mission-critical application and launch it to the world. Within the Force.com platform, there is a complete physical, network, and server infrastructure in the form of a data center. And in fact, not just one, but multiple data centers distributed across the globe. There's a dedicated team of infrastructure experts who monitor and maintain those data centers through a mature set of processes and procedures. And if there's any doubts that this is a world-class, mission-critical operation, then you can look to the various third-party certifications that Salesforce has attained, like ISO Standard 27001, SAS 70 Type 2, and HIPAA. So with Force.com, this best-of-breed infrastructure is offered to you. Now let's talk about the application development model. You can build any kind of user interface, including HTML, AJAX, Flash, or rich client. You can model any kind of data with the powerful database that allows you to store all kinds of data and structure your schema using any number of types of joins and relationships. You can then connect your user interface to your data and express any logic with a powerful programming language called Apex. If you know C#, you'll find this language very familiar. Now, as powerful and as flexible as this all seems, the development experience is highly productive. Developers have been documented in building apps in weeks, not months. This is possible because of many of the out-of-the-box features and conventions the platform has built in. It eliminates so much of the lower level glue that developers normally need to deal with. Instead, they get to concentrate on what matters. Here's a simplified illustration of how this all works. First, we have the Force.com platform. Apps get developed and deployed onto it in a standard structure. In a multi-tenant environment, each app is not running on its own box. In fact, it's not even running on its own virtual machine. It's running on a single infrastructure that all apps share. So for example, each app would have a set of pages that comprise the UI. There is actually only one page engine that evaluates all pages. Most pages are going to have some code behind associated with them. And that works in the same way. There is one code execution engine across all apps. Then that code will often need to read or write to a database. Well, that's the same thing. There's just one database instance shared across all apps. Now there's walls put in place at each level that makes it impossible for one app's database, for example, to access another app's database, so we don't need to worry about that. But we also don't need to worry about the hardware. I said there's one page engine, for example. I obviously don't mean just one machine. In fact, there's a huge cluster of machines, but they all work together as part of one single instance, as opposed to all running individual environments. With this model, we have enormous efficiencies and many benefits. This abstraction between the apps and the physical hardware that they're running on means that developers can think in units of apps, not servers and memory and storage and CPUs. Their apps can scale up and down as needed in a completely transparent way. This refocuses developers on where they bring the most value. So if we step back and look at what cloud computing is really about, it's about drawing a line between the underlying infrastructure required to run high-performance web applications and the developers who actually write the code. It's about focusing each party on what their core competency is. So as a developer, you spend your time building your data model, your business logic, and your user interface, while the cloud provider spends its time managing the infrastructure, the processes that go along with it, and the glue that ties all the applications pieces together. The end result is developers will build better applications in less time. And this is not what it's really all about. To learn more about the Force.com cloud computing platform, we've prepared a special link just below this video that will take you to a page where you can download a 40-page workbook tutorial and a comprehensive white paper about the platform. As well, you can get access to your very own developer account. All this will give you everything you need to start building applications in the cloud.